You may have heard about a new program in Placer County, the Placer County Conservation Program, generally referred to as the PCCP, developed to protect the areas that make Placer County such a beautiful place to live. This video is an overview of the PCCP to help explain what covered activities and covered species are and how it applies to public and private development projects while conserving natural resources and agriculture in western Placer County. The PCCP plan area covers approximately 201,000 acres of western Placer County, including the city of Lincoln, and is comprised of two plan areas, the Valley and the Foothills. It does not include the cities of Auburn, Rockland, Roseville, or the town of Loomis, as most of these areas have been built out. Adopted by the Placer County Board of Supervisors and the City of Lincoln in September 2020, after over 20 years in the making, the PCCP strikes a balance between conservation and economic development. Providing a conservation framework to protect, enhance, and restore natural resources including open space, agriculture, species protection, and wetland preservation, the program achieves state and federal conservation goals through regulatory permit coverage to protect and manage 47,300 acres over the first 50 years of the program. This permit coverage serves to accommodate the anticipated growth in the region while streamlining the environmental permitting coverage required of covered activities. The PCCP includes three separate but complementary components. The first component of the program is the Western Placer County Habitat Conservation Plan, or HCP, and the Natural Community Conservation Plan, or NCCP, both of which, combined, are referred to as the Plan, covering 14 species and their habitats. The second component is the Western Placer County Aquatic Resources Program, or CARP, protecting stream systems, wetlands, and other aquatic resources. And the third component is the Western Placer County In Lieu Fee Program, providing compensatory mitigation for impacts from projects and activities that are covered under the plan and the CARP. The PCCP has both natural and semi-natural community types. Natural communities consist of grassland, vernal pool complex, aquatic wetland complex, riverine riparian complex, oak woodland, and valley oak woodland. The semi-natural communities are agriculture, including rice and field agriculture, and orchard and vineyard agriculture. All of these community types provide valuable habitat for wildlife species that have been identified by state and federal agencies as threatened, endangered, or species of concern. The PCCP seeks to preserve these habitats through avoiding or minimizing impacts to them in order to ensure the program's 14 covered species will survive and thrive in western Placer County. The covered species identified for protection under the PCCP include 4 birds, Swainson's hawk, California black rail, western burrowing owl, and tricolored blackbird, 2 reptiles, giant garter snake and western pond turtle, 2 amphibians, foothill yellow-legged frog and California red-legged frog, 2 fish, Central Valley steelhead and Central Valley late fall run Chinook salmon, and 4 invertebrates, Valley elderberry longhorn beetle, Conservancy fairy shrimp, vernal pool fairy shrimp, and vernal pool tadpole shrimp. The County Aquatic Resources Program, or CARP, is one of the 3 components mentioned earlier that make up the PCCP and specifically addresses impacts and mitigation for streams, wetlands, and water quality. CARP authorization is required prior to any impact on aquatic resources within the PCCP plan area when the project is an HCP/NCCP covered activity. To determine whether a project requires CARP authorization, 3 simple questions need to be answered. 1. Is the project a covered activity? 2. Does the project site have aquatic resources such as streams or wetlands on site? And 3. Is the project proposing to impact these aquatic resources? If all 3 questions were answered with a yes, a CARP authorization is required for the proposed project. When a CARP authorization is required, the applicant is responsible for filling out the CARP sections of the PCCP/CARP authorization application prior to any impacts to the resources. Covered activity and covered project have been referred to a few times now and can include building permits on properties as small as 20,000 square feet or about half an acre. A decision tree has been developed to help explain that not all building permits require PCCP coverage. It can be found on the county's PCCP webpage online at placer.ca.gov/PCCP and has links embedded to find a property's land cover and to email planning technicians with questions about whether a building permit will require mitigation through the PCCP. Covered activities will require a PCCP certificate of authorization prior to any permits being issued that will result in ground disturbance. Project applicants are required to submit specific information about the property with the help of a qualified biologist in order for the proposed project to be assessed for impacts and for the planner to determine what the mitigation fees will be. There are 3 different types of PCCP mitigation fees that could apply. All covered projects are subject to land conversion fees, and special habitat fees are required as well when wetlands, vernal pools, riverine riparian areas, stream systems, and stream systems with salmon habitat are impacted. Temporary effects fees will be applied to projects where, for example, impacts from a construction staging area can be restored to its original state. The land conversion fee is based on the cost of mitigating each covered activity's impacts on covered species and natural communities. It offsets the cost to acquire land, restore oaks and wetlands, pay for fire hazard management, and long-term management of the reserve lands and their resources for the benefit of current and future generations. Land conversion fees are calculated separately for the valley and foothills, so depending on where the project is, the land conversion fees for similar projects may be different. Once these and any other required fees are paid, a certificate of authorization for permits resulting in ground disturbance can be issued. There are several types of habitat that require an additional mitigation fee to cover the cost of restoring these habitats when impacted. The habitat types that trigger these special habitat fees are vernal pools, vernal pool wetlands and their immediate watersheds, aquatic wetlands, riverine and riparian drainages, streams and creeks, vegetative buffers of those riverine and riparian areas, stream systems, and finally, salmonid stream channels. When applicable, these fees are paid in addition to the land conversion fees. The PCCP CARP application process is folded into the application process for discretionary permits, like major subdivisions or minor land divisions that require environmental review and/or a public hearing, and some ministerial permits, like a single-family residential permit that otherwise meets setbacks and other zoning clearances, that are determined to be covered projects, as mentioned earlier when we were looking at the decision tree for building permits. Pre-development meetings for discretionary projects are opportunities for project applicants to be informed of necessary surveys and reports. The equivalent step for single-family home builders is receiving application instructions and guidance on how to comply from county staff. Once the application materials are submitted, the application is reviewed for consistency with the PCCP. The final steps are the collection of any PCCP development fees, the issuance of the certificate of authorization, and post-construction documentation when needed. To summarize, upon receipt of the PCCP CARP authorization application, the planner will review the application and determine if complete or incomplete. If an application is incomplete, the planner will request additional information. Once deemed complete, the planner reviewing the project application will calculate PCCP land conversion fees and determine whether pre-construction surveys will be required. Required fees and conditions will be detailed in the certificate of authorization, which can be issued upon payment of the fees, allowing for permits resulting in ground disturbance to be issued. As mentioned earlier, while the application is a combined PCCP CARP authorization application, the CARP sections of the application only need to be completed if the project has anticipated impacts to aquatic resources. The PCCP is designed to streamline the permitting process while supporting the survival and well-being of the plan's covered species, as well as the survival of hundreds of other species that are dependent on the same habitat. By proactively addressing the long-term conservation and development needs of the county, the PCCP will strengthen local control over land use and provide greater flexibility in meeting the county's social and economic needs for the future. Thank you for your time and attention. We're here to help you through this new and exciting program. Links to application forms, the decision tree, and other documents like the fee schedule mentioned in this presentation can be found online at placer.ca.gov/PCCP. Please direct specific questions you may have for projects in Placer County or the City of Lincoln, or general questions about the PCCP, to the email addresses shown here.